Albert Einstein said, "Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile." There are more people who have benefited from the life of John Allan than they are aware. As you will see in using Albert Einstein's formula for living, the life of John Allan is more than worthwhile. John was born August 29, 1955 in Fairfield, California, the son of Minnie Elizabeth Martin and John Robert Allan Jr. Their father was a flight engineer in the Air Force, and the family would move as the Air Force needed. John spent much of his early years in Cynthiana, Kentucky. John developed an avid interest in aircraft from his father's stories. He felt he was fortunate to be in a family farming community and learned the importance of wherever you go, you don't forget where you came from. He traveled to the New York's World's Fair and to Washington, D.C. with his father. From his experiences, John was able to use his imagination and made a space model in the 5th grade. In 1968, John's father took a job with Pratt & Whitney as a draftsman, and the family moved to West Palm Beach, Florida. There in high school, John crossed paths with another important influence in his life, his teacher, Dr. Richard Fiera. Dr. Fiera showed John that it is a big world out there and how to apply himself. As a result, John's grades went from average to 4.0. Dr. Fiera was a model of direction and encouragement. Also, his infatuation with flying would increase as he spent hours watching planes at the Palm Beach airport. After graduating from high school in 1973, John entered the University of Florida with a desire to be an engineer. He received an ROTC scholarship to be a pilot. While in college, John met Joan Mary Leans, Longboat Key, Florida. They would be married in 1978. John graduated with distinction from the ROTC program and was commissioned as a second lieutenant. He graduated pilot training in 1979 and became a T-37 instructor pilot. He was promoted to captain in 1981, and the following year, their first son Daniel was born. John obtained a master's degree in aeronautical technology at Arizona State and began flying with the C-141 Starlifter. He was later upgraded to an instructor. His second son Timothy was born in 1984. In 1985, he left the active Air Force because he didn't want his family to have the military life of moving regularly, and they moved to Washington, D.C. John became a C-141 Air Force Reserves instructor as well as a research analyst with analytic services as a civilian. Preferring the operations element, he left the consultant role and joined the Air Force Reserves full-time as Chief of Scheduling, and then Chief of Training, and later upgraded to Examiner Pilot. He was also promoted to Major. In 1990, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. John's squadron was activated, and he did a lot of flying the C-141 in the Middle East. His fellow pilots were in the Federal Aviation Administration, and they got to know each other very well. On a day while jogging with Dan Bodetti near the burning oil fields of Saudi Arabia, John mentioned that he would be interested in joining the FAA. Dan at the time was the FAA Director of Flight Standards Service. He agreed, and because of John's instructor background, Dan recommended that he work with a groundbreaking new training program called the Advanced Qualification Program run at Dulles Airport. In 2003, John was named Deputy Director of Flight Standards in the FAA. It was also that year that President Bush decided to invade Iraq. John was asked to support senior executives up to Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld with the activation of Guard and Reserve forces. John was the FAA Deputy Director from 2003 to 2008, with his boss, Jim Ballo, working to modernize the aviation industry and the FAA into a new era of safety. Their efforts were to work and modernize the art of science and safety as a regulator to improve airline training programs, trying their hardest where everyone has a voice and not to shut anyone out. John was promoted to Brigadier General in 2006. The Air Force Reserve experience was extremely important as John practiced in the training and qualifying of airmen, and the leadership was great in the training program in the FAA New Era of Safety. John included his background of treating others as you would like to be treated. In December of 2008, John would be given the title of Director, Flight Standards Service. In the old era of FAA safety, if a mistake were made, the person would be penalized. Under John's leadership, the FAA would go on to adopt the philosophy of working with those who had committed errors to understand the hows and whys of the issue and learn from them, and promote rules and procedures to help lessen the risk of the same mistake from occurring again. After 31 years of service, John retired from the Air Force Reserves in 2009. In 2013, he retired from the FAA and joined JetBlue in the same year, where he is currently Vice President of Safety, promoting safety through instigating policies. He and Joan enjoy 3 dogs and a 31-foot sailboat in Long Island Sound. For the sake and safety of others, John Allan has lived a life worthwhile. It is therefore fitting that John Allan, in recognition of his accomplishments and service, be enshrined into the official Aviation Hall of Fame of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.